Thanks for tuning in, everybody, again to S&M Radio. My name is Shanon, joined by Mark.
Hey there.
How's it going tonight, sir?
Doing good.
Awesome.
Doing good.
So, as we teased last month, this is February, unless you're listening to this in June or July or something. And we promised last month that, or we didn't promise, we put it up to vote. And as I expected, we got absolutely no response, which wasn't surprising. So we're going to do 2 episodes this month like we do every month. And both episodes this month are going to be February kind of sort of themed. This episode really isn't necessarily February themed. But to give everybody a little hint as to what we're going to talk about this episode, let's see if this gives it away.
Ooh, I like that.
I have no idea if anybody can even hear it.
I heard it.
Yeah, I heard it too. Hopefully it's enough to give it away. So this episode, we are talking about Friday the 13th, and we're not going to do the debacle that we did with the first episode when we switched over to the new format last year and decided to take on 10 Halloween movies in one episode. We're just going to talk about one Friday the 13th movie, the very first one, the 1980 Friday the 13th movie that actually didn't come out on Friday the 13th, but that's a different story.
When did it come out?
I believe it came out in like May. I think it came out May like 9th. On the 9th or something, yeah.
Yeah, very good. May 9th, 1980. Wow. Yeah, they should have found a Friday the 13th to toss it on when they released it. Must have been some sort of financial issue.
I don't think it was a financial issue as much as it was that when this movie came out this one came out in 80, but the late 70s and early 80s was just riddled with all of those different slasher horror movies that were trying to capitalize on the success that Halloween had.
Man, that was a good time to be a horror movie fan. This is like this is my era for sure of horror movies. The slasher is kind of that's the one, that's the genre or the category whatever of the horror, horror movies. That's probably definitely my favorite is the slashers.
Yeah, there was some really good ones that came out in that period of time. But there was also a lot of very crappy ones that came out.
Yeah, there were.
Yeah,
there was. Did you ever see Terror Train? That was one.
No, I never saw that one. Okay. Me and you watched one a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember this or not, called Happy Birthday to Me.
Was that one of those nights that you brought the big, giant cooler of beer over? Was that night? Because that's probably why I don't remember it.
No, we watched that one at my house.
Oh, did we? Okay. Yeah, I totally don't remember it.
There probably was a big giant cooler of beer involved.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I mean, I remember Moosehead beer. Maybe it was that. Maybe we were drinking Moosehead at the time or something.
No,
and that's why I don't remember it.
When we were drinking Moosehead when we watched the movie that we're going to talk about later this month.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, there was Happy Birthday to Me. There's New Year Evil. There's
Prom Night.
April Fool's Day. They took every conceivable day of the year that they could exploit, and they made a crappy horror movie about.
Yeah, I think probably one of the worst was Silent Night, Deadly Night. That's pretty terrible.
Yeah, although that franchise ended up going to having, I don't know how many, 5, 6 sequels or something, and got remade too.
I still haven't seen the remake.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Well, if it's anything like the originals, then it's it doesn't have much to live up to.
But Friday the 13th was one of those movies. Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller are the ones who wrote it. And really, they had this idea of putting teenagers in a camp environment and having them getting picked off one by one. And the only reason why it's called Friday the 13th is because they decided that it needed to have some sort of scheme to it, some sort of plot, and let's put it on Friday the 13th. That would be perfect.
So in other words, it's just a big giant ripoff of Halloween.
Yeah, it really is. And this movie is good. I like this movie anyway. But it really is... It really kind of, they really kind of stole from that movie, the Halloween, in a couple of different aspects. One, with they wanted it to be a slasher film. They wanted it to be different in a bunch of different ways. But then there's also some similarities in the fact that they had Betsy Palmer starred in this movie as Pamela Voorhees. And Betsy Palmer's character is similar to that of Sam Loomis from, or not Sam Loomis, what's his face? I can see his face. From Halloween, you know who I'm talking about.
Are we talking about the killer?
No, not the killer. The guy who played Dr. Loomis.
Yeah. Donald Pleasance.
Yes, Donald Pleasance. So, they got this, Betsy Palmer is not necessarily a big name actress or anything by those means, but they hired her to come in and kind of have this, not really piece part, but, this part in the movie because they wanted a somewhat of a known name, sort of like Halloween did with Donald Pleasance. And I don't even know
exactly,
if... What's that?
I was like, who is Betsy Palmer? Because, I know Betsy Palmer from Friday the 13th. And I know, everybody, Betsy Palmer and the fact that she's in this movie is a big deal. I have no idea what else she's done. She must have been some sort of a well-known name before my time, that's for sure. Because I'm trying to think here.
Yeah, she was in a whole bunch of stuff. She was in movies, from the 50s. She was like okay. I wouldn't say a huge name in the movies, but she was in a bunch of movies in the 50s, and then I don't think she really did anything until she was in Friday the 13th.
Oh, okay. So that was kind of like her comeback then.
Kind of, sorta. And she, in every interview I've ever seen with her, she absolutely hated the movie, hated the role. Until I think much later, and then she sort of kind of what a lot of actors and actresses end up doing when they don't have much success after they've had success in horror. But, once they realize that there is somewhat of a following to the movies and to them, and there is some continued success, for these people to go to the conventions and things like that, then all of a sudden they embrace it. And I think that was one of those.
I see. Yeah, they have that kind of second life in those conventions. Those conventions really take those people and catapult them into a whole new level of, I don't know, fame, if that's the right word, but a lot, you think of it like the Friday the 13th girls who haven't done anything since, Friday the 13th part 4 or whatever, whichever one they were in. Yeah, those conventions are really kind of cool. Cool for the fans to, get to meet all these people they grew up on and grew up watching, and, so that's cool that if she's doing the conventions and all that, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, I think she's dead now.
Is she?
I think so. No, maybe not. No, she's still alive.
Is she? Okay.
But she's got to be 90 years old.
Yeah, because she was probably, I don't know how old back in 1980 when they did this.
Oh yeah, she had to have been in her 50s. at least.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, probably in her 50s. So yeah, that was what 30, 40 years ago. Oh my gosh.
Right. Yeah. So
Dang, we are old, dude.
we are old. But yeah, this movie, like I said, came out in 1980, a couple years after Halloween came out, trying to totally capitalize on the success of Halloween. And it actually, this movie, unlike a lot of them of the time, actually really did kind of capitalize on that success. We always say this every episode. We'll probably end up giving away a couple spoilers if you haven't seen this movie. If you haven't seen this movie, you really should go to watch it. And the original Friday the 13th is completely and utterly different than all of the other movies in the series, mainly because this movie was really meant to be a one-off. And even though it was kind of hoping to capitalize on the success of Halloween, they really wanted to have their own little twist to it. So one of the things that everybody really associates with Friday the 13th is Jason and Jason Voorhees, and really the character that everybody knows as Jason Voorhees really has no presence in the original Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, this movie was like a pretty big letdown, I think, to me when I first saw it, because I saw it when I was in, gosh, it was probably fourth grade, I think, and so that was probably like 86 is when I finally saw this movie. They had like a Friday the 13th marathon, and this is when I taped them all, and it was like they only played the first three, and I remember, Jason had already become kind of like an icon, and the hockey mask was, everywhere, and they were up to, I think, part 6 by this point. And so, I mean, when you're thinking Friday the 13th, at that point, you're thinking Jason, hockey mask, going around killing people. That's the monster you want to see on the screen. So when I saw this movie, and he comes up like in a dream sequence as a little boy jumping out of the water. But never the adult Jason, never that. Nowhere, there's no hockey mask, no sign of a hockey mask. So actually, I was pretty disappointed when I saw this movie for that very reason.
Yeah, there is that aspect of the movie, but really, there's a couple of really cool things about Friday the 13th. Number one being, Betsy Palmer was in it, which really outside of the Friday the 13th movie, a lot of people don't really know who she is, our age anyway. I mean, I'm sure there's people that are older than us that know who she is.
Right.
But this movie, too, is somewhat famously known as Kevin Bacon's first movie. I believe that when he made this movie was, I don't know when Footloose came out, but he did this movie. And then the other person who's really associated with this movie that, again, was kind of like the breakout, not really role, but would be, for all the horror fans out there, would be Tom Savini. This was really his first... I shouldn't say it was his first, but this is really the movie that he really takes pride in coming up with a lot of the effects for. And still, even if you watch a Tom Savini interview like today and you bring up the original Friday the 13th, he will tell you about the toothpicks in the neck with the head being decapitated trick and all this other stuff that he does, and how those are his hands on the machete and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, this is Savini. This is some of his finest work. I mean, with all the creative kills, and going back to the Kevin Bacon kill, with the arrow coming out of his neck from underneath the bed, and that became sort of like the one of those classic Friday the 13th kills that you saw, in some of the sequels that came after with there always somebody'd lay down on a bed, and then the killer would be underneath the bed, and a blade would go through them, and you'd see it come out their chest, out their neck, or whatever. So yeah, you had that. There was the kill with the girl, the hitchhiker in the beginning. Um, Now that was kind of cut short, I think, because originally they had a longer version. I think that was just released recently. So yeah, that was, and then like you said, the decapitation at the end with Betsy Palmer, Jason's mom, and the probably one of the goriest ones for its time, I thought at least, was the girl who goes into the bathroom or the outhouse and gets the axe in the head, right in the face. So that, and you didn't see like the blade penetrating, but you did see the bloody mess, and I thought that was pretty gross back in in the 80s. Now it's something you'd see about 10 times during the opening credits of The Walking Dead, but back then it was quite a deal.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, this movie too is even though it was a couple of years after Halloween came out, when you talk about Friday the 13th and you talk about Halloween, or even some purists would even bring up Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then you get into the argument of which really is the start of the real slasher film.
Yeah.
And a lot of people really think that it started actually with Friday the 13th rather than earlier.
I can see that. I think I always kind of, to me, I mean, there was stuff before Halloween. I think Black Christmas was before Halloween, if I'm right on that. And then there was a few others. Psycho, to some degree. I guess it's not a real good example of a slasher, but sort of a like kind of what led into the slasher. To me, Halloween is like the ultimate slasher movie. It's like the one that really got it right and did it perfectly, and just real high-end version, like the Cadillac of slasher movies. Friday the 13th to me is probably like the slasher movie that the formula was really, really kind of put in place with Friday the 13th, where it was it wasn't as good as Halloween. It was very formulaic, and it just kind of repeated that pattern over and over and over again. And I think it kind of does have that. It is, and it's gorier, and they kind of try to capitalize on the gore. And even like the Halloween movies tried to kind of compete with the sequels for the Friday the 13th movie. So there was kind of a battle. So all the Halloween movies that after the first one, they tried to be more gory. They tried to make Michael Myers more like Jason, and so you saw a lot of that happen. So I guess Friday the 13th did kind of, sort of start the slasher. I mean, it really took what Halloween did and then kind of ran with it.
Yeah. Really, the biggest thing that I think a lot of people associate with Friday the 13th more than any other slasher movie, or what may or may not be considered a slasher movie, especially of the 80s, is that Friday the 13th really set the tone for, if you are a teenager and you go camping or you go to a party, and if you do drugs or you drink or if you have sex, Jason Voorhees is going to come and cut your fucking head off.
Yeah, it was definitely the campgrounds thing. I think was ingenious. I totally dug that. And really, when you think about it, Jason and his whole story, it's just a bonfire story. It's a total story that just a bunch of people sitting around a fire. And actually, in the part 2, there's actually a scene where there are a bunch of people sitting around a fire telling the Jason story. And that's really what it is. I mean, it's so simple. It's the classic. Okay, the kid drowned. The counselors weren't watching, so now the mom went and it killed everybody, and then somehow the boy lived, and now he's back, seeking revenge because one of the kids killed the mom. And it's just that total like story that you could picture a bunch of kids hanging around a campfire telling the tale of the stalker in the woods, and so it's definitely a classic. They did a really good job with that, and it's become kind of like modern day. I don't know. You want to say mythology, where it's like, I mean, Jason is such an icon of don't go camping or you'll get killed, whatever. So it's pretty amazing too how like some of these characters like are showing up in the Halloween aisle, during October. I think that's pretty fascinating because remember when we were little, you go down the seasonal aisle of a grocery store and they had like Frankenstein and the Wolfman decorations and the Mummy and that kind of stuff. And now when you go down those aisles, you've got like Jason decorations that you hang up on your window when you're on Halloween. I think that's pretty amazing how iconic he's become. And I know we're talking about Jason, hockey mask Jason, even, but he's not even in this original movie. But this is where he came from. This is his origin. But
right, yeah, everybody know. I mean, I have teenage daughters, and they know who Jason is.
Yeah, you got to know who he is.
So, and they're all that. You really have the big. Well, you have the big three, and honestly, I mean, the kids actually, for whatever reason, associate with Chucky too. But you have Jason, Michael Myers, and Freddy Krueger.
Yep.
And like I said, for some reason, kids associate with Chucky nowadays. I don't understand that at all. But I mean, I always considered the big four when I was growing up. Even now, still, Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers, and Leatherface.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah, those were our monsters growing up.
Yeah, it'd be cool, like if you remember the movie Monster Squad.
Yes, I actually just watched that. I watched that on Super Bowl Sunday.
So
that's how I celebrated the Super Bowl. I watched Monster Squad.
What did I watch? What did I watch during the Super Bowl? I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I watched something. Oh, I watched the movie Vile that I was talking about earlier.
Oh, okay.
If you have Netflix, go look at this movie Vile.
I'll have to check that out.
It's completely wrong. But so Monster Squad, it was this group of kids, and all these old Universal monsters came to life. So What was it? It was Dracula, the Mummy, the werewolf, and was it what was the other one? Was it
Frankenstein and the Creature?
Yeah. So could you imagine, like, that would be like the coolest remake ever? And we're putting this out on the air, so if anybody makes this, we expect our royalties off of it. But if you remade the Monster Squad and it was like Leatherface and Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger and Pinhead and Chucky, and
dude, I think I actually they've been talking about that they were going to remake that movie for a while. I think it's dead now. But I remember several years back, them saying something along those lines of putting in modern horror characters in it instead of the Universal monsters. And I don't know for sure if that was actually something they were truly considering or if it was just a fan saying that. But yeah, that would be an incredible movie.
And then
that would be so cool to see that.
You could have one of the good guys would be Ash from Evil Dead would come out and help you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Help the good guys battle the evil.
Oh, that would be too
army
cool.
of monsters.
That would be awesome. Yeah, because that was like, those were our, and they were kind of taboo back when we were kids. It was like, oh, Jason movie. You can't watch that. That's pretty. That's some intense stuff. Or Leatherface. I mean, I know Texas Chainsaw Massacre was like the biggest taboo movie, ever for me as a kid. I got all the warnings and that one, that's the one. You're never gonna see that one. And Of course I did, and now of course I own 2 copies of it. But yeah, back then it was, oh man, it was like the movie. But yeah, these Friday the 13th movies, I remember. I'm looking, you go on the IMDb page, and they got the original poster art, the silhouette or the shape of somebody holding a knife, and then you got all these covers are so iconic. I mean, I remember as a kid just going through the mom and pop video stores and grabbing these boxes off the shelf and trying to get as much as I could just from the box because my parents wouldn't let me rent it, and the boxes just got better and better and better. They start putting the hockey mask on the box and a little bit more on the back, and it just
Yeah.
These were good times watching these movies.
So the more that we do these episodes, the more that I come to realize that we actually don't talk about the movie at all.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't seen Friday the 13th and you're listening to a podcast on Friday the 13th, you need to go watch Friday the 13th.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
and
this
kind of
movie,
join the conversation. You'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah, this was a really good movie. And there's a bunch of really cool stuff about Friday the 13th. Like I said, we weren't going to really talk about anything other than the first movie, and we're really not. I mean, well, we have, but there's a couple of really good books about Friday the 13th. There's hell, now I can't even remember the name of it off the top of my head. Memories of Crystal Lake or something like that. It's a book, and then there's this 12-hour documentary about it. It talks to all of the people that were involved in all of the different movies. For whatever reason, aside from Kevin Bacon, because Kevin Bacon refuses to talk about it. I don't understand why. Must be because he's so busy nowadays.
He's a Hollywood big shot now.
Yeah, he is. I mean, when was the last movie he was in?
What was it, Footloose?
Yeah, I don't.
No, it was one of those Tremor movies, probably.
And then Kane Hodder, who gained a lot of notoriety for playing Jason Voorhees in Halloween 7, 8, 9, and Jason X. Or not 9. Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. He's got a book out, like an autobiography thing, and he talks about making Friday the 13th in there too, which is really cool.
Oh, okay.
But one of the things, because I read both of the books and then actually watched all the documentary things too. I think it's like Memories from Camp Crystal Lake or something like that is the name of it. And Friday the 13th is no different than any other low-budget horror movie. Everybody that was involved with it hated it at the time that they were making it. I mean, all they did, I mean, especially like these movies, is it's just a bunch of, 22-year-olds making this movie. So, of course, they're just out in the middle of nowhere, partying it up, filming all night, and then, just drinking and partying all day. And
it always makes me jealous to some of these movies. You go back and you hear about, these people going back and how they, put these movies together. And I mean, they just had a great time. And like you said, they were just kids, they had no idea that this was going to be some giant series, that we'd be talking about now. I mean, it's just like you said, just a bunch of kids. Let's make a movie in the woods. And I mean, think about it too. Like, who wouldn't want to be in a Friday the 13th movie? I mean, it's just a bunch of kids, a bunch of hot chicks and hanging out in the woods and drinking beer and hanging out by a campfire, and then there's a creepy killer chasing everybody. I mean, it's the most. All these movies are terribly fun, and this first one, the first one too. I think should we do like a little recap of it? Just kind of give everybody a taste of the storyline.
Sure, go for it.
Well, it's this one. This Friday the 13th is based in in an actual campground location, Camp Crystal Lake, which not all of the sequels had that location, but this is the original location of where Jason is from. And the story is basically starts out, and I think in the 60s, and a bunch of camp counselors are hanging out by a fire, and then the two of them sneak away, and they're murdered by somebody we don't know who it is, and that's how the movie opens. And then it goes back to present day, which is the 1979 or 1980, and this girl's coming to town, and she got a job as a camp counselor, comes to town, and is trying to hitchhike to the campgrounds, and everybody's telling her, like in the local diner, that oh, the place is cursed. You can't, you don't want to go there. It's blah blah blah.
That would be our buddy Ralph. That was in the first 2 or 3.
Yes, Ralph.
You're doomed. You're all doomed.
Ralph was iconic too. Yeah, he was a great character. Yeah, they got rid of him too early. He should have stuck around a little longer.
I think he died.
Yeah, he died. Oh, did he? In real life?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Oh, bummer. They should do a spin-off on Ralph, like a Ralph movie. That would be great. Or like a prequel all about Ralph and, him spying on kids back in the early days or something.
It'd come out that he was like the dad or something.
Yeah. Yep. And but so they go to she's trying to get there, and anyhow she gets murdered by one of the people that pick her up when she's hitchhiking, and that's the killer, and we don't know who this killer is. Anyhow, it cuts to the campgrounds, and it's basically this guy and the main character, who is Alice Hardy, played by Adrienne King. She's like the first final girl of all these Friday the 13th movies. They're trying to get this campground back up and running, and they're hiring these teenagers to be the counselors, and they're prepping the place and all of this. And anyhow, if you haven't seen a slasher movie, well, I mean, you should know the general formula. Each one is picked off one by one as they go off and make out or go off on their own. Anyhow, at the end of the movie, Betsy Palmer comes into the picture, and she says she's Mrs. Voorhees, and she used to work there.
Oh wait, I was gonna do this. Ready?
And then she says,
"Kill her, Mommy. Kill her. Don't let her get away, Mommy. Don't let her live." "I won't, Jason. I won't."
Yep, that is her. And so you end up finding, she basically is telling the final girl, the last girl alive, Alice, that her son drowned and nobody paid attention to him.
Oh, wait, I got that one too. Hold on.
"Did you know that a young boy drowned the year before those 2 others were killed? The counselors weren't paying any attention. They were making love while that young boy drowned."
That's the last soundbite I have.
And then and what she says right after that, she says, "And his name was Jason." But yeah, that's a very iconic. That basically sets up the whole what's going on here. And so, as you heard her talking, doing the 2 voice thing, she kind of has a split personality. She's kind of she thinks she's Jason, or that Jason's talking to her, and her son who drowned. And anyhow, it ends up she's chasing Alice down. They end up on the shore of Crystal Lake, and they're going at it, and Alice grabs a machete to protect herself and save her life, and decapitates Mrs. Voorhees.
I heard you say they were going at it, and I thought you were going to do something completely different with that. I was like, ooh, Adrienne King and Betsy Palmer going at it. That sounds dirty.
Well, it's almost like a mud wrestling scene at the end there, if you watch it. I mean, they're like smacking each other around. She's rubbing her face in the dirt. Oh yeah, they're really going. They are kind of going at it. So if you want to see,
awesome.
and it's a kind of an interesting little fight there, and then it ends up with Mrs. Voorhees getting decapitated. And anyhow, in typical horror movie fashion, instead of going and calling the police, Alice decides to take the canoe out for a spin, and so she goes out, floats the canoe out into the middle of Crystal Lake, falls asleep. Next morning, she wakes up, and the police are coming to her aid. They're off on the shore, and what happens then? Our good friend Jason appears.
Yeah, which that was always supposed to be. Anytime you ever listen to Sean Cunningham talk. That dream sequence at the end of the movie was supposed to be that it was just with Carpenter and Halloween. Friday the 13th was supposed to be a one and done. We're not doing this anymore. How could you possibly? We killed the killer at the end of the movie. We cut her head off. But they Paramount freaking capitalized on that. That's for sure.
Yeah, Paramount actually. This was kind of the whole Friday the 13th series was kind of like their redheaded stepchild. I mean, they didn't want anything to do with this thing. I mean, it was making buku bucks, and so they were raking in the dollars, but they were not proud of it. It was kind of like a hidden thing, it's just kind of like, we don't want to talk about this. Just, here's a small amount of money, go do your thing and make some money for us. But it was kind of like, they didn't feel, they weren't proud of it by any means. Let's put it that way.
Which is weird because this first one costed them probably around $500,000, and it made almost $40 million.
Wow.
So, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's and they sure as heck milked it for everything it was. What do they got now? We're up to
with the remake it was 12.
Good gosh.
Well, I should say the remake and the crossover between the Freddy versus Jason movie.
That's 12. Okay, because I remember. Do you remember that? I don't know. Was it an urban legend back when we were kids? But the whole thing was that they were going to go up to 13 and end it.
That's what I had always heard too. But supposedly there's. I mean, if it ever actually happens or not, I don't know. But there's supposed to be a sequel to the remake coming out at some point. But there's supposed to be a Halloween 3 coming out too.
Yeah, I heard about this new Friday the 13th, and I heard they were talking about trying to do a found footage. Then I heard they wanted to do something like in a snow setting. They thought it would be cool for it to be in the winter time, which would be kind of interesting. And then the last thing I heard, I think it was going to be kind of a reboot, so it wasn't going to really follow the remake that came out. It was going to be more of a kind of a standalone again, kind of like that Texas Chainsaw movie that came out not too long ago. Well, I guess that would be more of a sequel. I mean, I'm getting confused with all these movies. I mean, they're now. It was first it was sequels. The 80s it was all about sequels. Then Star Wars came out and it was all about prequels. Then it was all about remakes, and now it's like they're rebooting remakes to make sequels to prequels. I'm completely confused of what they're doing now, what the trend is. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't get it.
So as long as I guess there's a guy in a hockey mask, his name is Jason, and maybe in Crystal Lake, I think that'll be what we get.
So before we end everything for this episode, just to see if we can get any goddamn interest at all, I want to do a giveaway.
Ooh.
So I have a pop vinyl Jason Voorhees little 3-inch bobblehead looking doll. He's not a bobblehead. From Funko.
Nice.
If you, as a listener, can tell us what Kane Hodder's favorite Friday the 13th kill as Jason Voorhees was, just send us an email to the email and the contact information at the end of the show, or post the answer to our Facebook page. First correct answer gets the little Jason Voorhees guy. I'll mail it to you. Just between you and me, Mark, I'm guessing next month I'll still have the doll sitting here looking at me.
Well, can I guess?
I didn't know co-hosts are ineligible to win the prize.
Man. Speaking of toys, though, because you said Funko. Funko is also doing these reaction figures, and they have we talked about it in the last episode. And they have a Jason. Well, actually, have two Jasons, and they are really cool. If you are a Friday the 13th fan and you grew up in the 80s and you had action figures in your toy box, then you got to go and get these retro looking figures. The Jason one is great, and they actually made two versions of it. They got the standard one, which is the one you can pretty much get anywhere. That's the one I have. And they also have one that basically it's just a different paint scheme. He's got like a bright blue outfit on, and they're supposed to, like, I guess, kind of mimic the look he had in the original Nintendo video game.
Oh.
That game was horrible, by the way.
Yeah, and Reaction's latest line of toys coming out is... what the hell is it? Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, they look pretty cool.
So, with that, like I said, send all of your thousands of responses in to us, Facebook, email. Actually, too, you know what? You can even call the call-in number and the contact information and leave a voicemail with your answer. That'd be cool too. But otherwise, thanks everybody for downloading the podcast or listening on the Podbean page or Stitcher or however you're listening. Until a couple weeks from now, when we come at you with our My Bloody Valentine episode, everybody take care. Peace out. Good night. All that good stuff. Mark, thanks again.
Absolutely. Are we gonna go out with some classic Friday the 13th music?
Not at all.
Oh man.
Not at all.
Not even the. You don't have that somewhere on that. What is it, that your playlist or whatever?
No. No, I found the Soundborn thing, and no, because I didn't. The only one I could find was the one I played at the very beginning that even had that.
Okay.
I couldn't even find the the theme, the actual theme. Yeah, I know, it was weird.
Oh, that sucks.